Where did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong for Jack Grealish at Manchester City? That's the question we'll be attempting to answer. Welcome back to the City Ramble. If you are new around here, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. Plenty of content throughout the summer. Also get involved in the City Ramble Discord. The link is in the description. But £100 million back in 2021. Good value for money? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to be attempting to go through Jack Grealish's City career and offer a balanced perspective, because you've got Grealish haters, you've got Grealish lovers. Let's try and find somewhere in the middle if we can. The first season, was it great? Probably not. Was it bad? No, I wouldn't say it at all. It was here, neither there. He played a decent role. Obviously, you could tell that he was just learning Guardiola's system, coming to terms with what City were doing in the build-up play, but you could see what Pep wanted on that left-hand side of attack. Now, you fast forward into 22-23 season, Erling Haaland arrives. A lot of people saying that that's going to unlock Jack Grealish playing with a striker. He didn't necessarily suit that false nine system, I didn't think, in the first season. But even still, again, in that 22-23 season, to begin with, that's the important point here, I think. To begin with, it was a little bit sketchy at times. You could see that he was trying stuff, but it wasn't necessarily coming off. And there was a moment, there was a game, I think it was Leeds away around Christmas time, where Grealish had a poor first half. He could have either scored, he could have got a goal, I can't remember. So he could have got an assist, I can't remember which one it was. But he comes out in the second half and he plays really well. And I think he either assists Haaland just before half time or twice in the second half. The point being, that seemed to be the catalyst for his career at City, or at least that season, because from that point on, even January, February, when City themselves weren't great, Grealish was popping up with some decent performances. There was a goal away at Arsenal in a big clash at the Emirates Stadium that he either got the decider, we got the winner. Again, memory fails me there. But the point being, he was growing into that £100 million price tag. And I think it's important to mention that wasn't his fault at all. See, he didn't decide to stick £100 million price tag on his shoulders. That was Aston Villa who said that. City decided to pay it, and all the pressures that came with that, which I'm sure we'll speak about later on in this video. But people will say, obviously, with that treble win and obviously the Premier League title, the FA Cup and the Champions League, City didn't win the treble because of Jack Grealish specifically. You would say Kevin De Bruyne, Ederson, John Stones, Rodri were more quote-unquote important players in City setup. Erling Haaland, how could I forget? But any team that gets to that situation where I would say maybe bar Akanji and Walker, who were interchanging a little bit, 10 out of the 11 players in the team were basically undroppable in that running, in that 22-23 running. And Grealish was just as important that, because the control he brought from a first half of the season where City were a bit skittish with adding Erling Haaland in there. They'd lost the control that had won them the league title a couple of seasons in a row before with that sort of false nine system, having an extra midfielder. Grealish helped to get over that problem, and he was doing it in a really positive way. I don't think, to be fair to him, he got the goals and assist numbers that his performances reflected. Just look at the first half against Real Madrid. He could have had 2 assists alone, if not for fantastic saves from Thibaut Courtois in that semi-final clash. So that 22-23 season was so good. It got so many people promised, excited about what could maybe come the season after. But I think this interview was the beginning of the end, really, for Jack Grealish in a City shirt, because this is an interview with BT Sports, the main broadcaster at the time in the UK, at the full-time whistle, there or thereabouts, in Istanbul. And he basically speaks about how his footballing career has peaked. He said so there himself. He said that this is what you've worked towards your entire career. This is what you want to achieve. This is, the pinnacle, winning a treble. How do you even people win Champions League titles, people win Premier League titles. Only once before in English football had a team done the treble, and it wasn't even in this same millennium. So in February, nobody was saying City are going to win the treble, and Grealish was a major part of that. So I think, not necessarily for just him, because you could say maybe 1, 2, 3 other of the players in City's squad that season, from that point on, after achieving the pinnacle of football, it was a drop-off, because how do you motivate yourself? How do you get yourself back up? It takes an incredible athlete, an incredible person as well, mentally, to keep going, to keep finding that drive. And, from that point on, I think it's safe to say his City career has nosedived. 23, 24, I think a lot of people were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. There was talk of off the field issues, he couldn't stay fit. Whatever your thoughts around that is, I think most people, most rational thinking people in the season that followed the treble were like, fair enough, we'll see what it's like in the season after, which is the one that has just gone. But let's face it just simply wasn't good enough. And it's, in my opinion, and I'm going to speak for Guardiola here because he has mentioned this several times before, it was never a quality issue. Guardiola's comments speak for themselves. He's always said nobody has fought more for Jack Grealish than he has. When he is fit, when he is firing, when he is both physically there and mentally there, Grealish, an amazing, astonishing player. We've seen the quality he has. It just hasn't been enough. And I think that's kind of that's been the bridge that, for whatever reason, has now burned, because the reports are that he's obviously not going to be going to the Club World Cup in the summer. He's not going to be in the squad. The Daily Telegraph reporting that. So it's over. It has to be over. He's got 1 year left on his contract. It's probably going to be a loan, because 300 grand a week, whatever the reported wages are, it'd be interesting to see if any club comes close to paying for them. But again, I go back to it. It isn't a quality issue. And I think that's kind of where you have to fall when analysing his career as a City player, because it isn't like he's come in and he's done nothing and he's left. Like some of City's not so great signings in recent sort of time have done. Grealish made a massive impact on City's greatest ever achievement, and you can't overlook that. He'll leave with 3 Premier League titles to his name. Again, was he the best player in any of those title wins? No, but he certainly contributed moments and is worthy of having those medals. It has just sort of fallen off a cliff, and it's ended a little bit sour. I think, you look at some of the press conferences, being left out of the squad for the Fulham game, not getting on the pitch in the FA Cup final, Claudio Echeverri coming off the bench to make his debut, a teenager, ahead of your £100 million signing. I mean, come on. Read between the lines. It is sort of pointing towards one thing. And look, I genuinely hope he falls on his feet and he can land on his feet and he can get a move where maybe, I don't want to sort of be too presumptuous and speak for him, but rediscover that love of football. Because what I haven't mentioned here is that playing for City and playing for Guardiola is a high pressure environment. In 22-23, he could handle that pressure. For whatever reason, it appears that this season, that the season just gone, maybe not. Again, we are sort of making our own conclusions there, but we have to go off what's in front of us. And I genuinely, as somebody who has, on his day, absolutely adored watching Jack Grealish. I hope he can get to a club where he's playing regularly, he can keep himself fit, he's finding that sort of that rhythm again, because he's a delightful player to watch. And people will speak about how Guardiola coached his flair out of him or whatever that's meant to mean, but I think it's totally the opposite. When you look at how important in that 22-23 season he was to City's build-up play, he was to City's attack. He's an incredibly intelligent footballer. It isn't just a case of giving the ball and hope something happens. He's much more. He isn't a one-dimensional player, is what I'm getting at. And I mean, let me know in the comments what you think. Like I said, it's been a really divisive issue, a real divisive player. I don't think necessarily, some of the conversations around it have helped. I remember when Jeremy Doku came in for an example, it felt like every conversation surrounding Jack Grealish had to involve Jeremy Doku. And that isn't helpful to anyone in any situation. So, look, it's going to be over. It's going to be done. It's going to be dusted. Grealish will be leaving. We've kind of felt that we knew that was the case for a couple of months now. All of the talk was heading towards an exit. But this feels like, I guess, the final nail in the coffin. Or maybe the penultimate nail in the coffin, because the final one will be when we get that news that he is definitely signing for a new club. But as always, hit subscribe for plenty of Manchester City content, news, views and opinions from the world of the Blues. Hey, that rhymes. Get involved in the City Ramble Discord as well. Link in the description. We're across all social media. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Get on that as well. And until next time, it's been a pleasure. And we will see you later. Penultimate nail in the coffin. get that news.